morning. My name is Venus Miranda Reyes. I am working with the Public Diplomacy Office here at U.S. Embassy Suva. We have a treat today. We're going to Talanoa with Mr. Tony Greubel, Chargé of Affairs of U.S. Embassy Fiji. Before we get started with our Talanoa, there are a couple of things that I would like to say when it comes to our hosting and our meeting. Before we get started, let me introduce Dale Songe, who will be managing our host account. Please send her a question, or if you have any particular questions, to the chat box at PD Suva. Well, without further ado, let me just go ahead and introduce Mr. Tony Greubel. He is a Chargé of Interim at the United States Embassy in Suva as of January 2021. He previously served as Deputy Chief of Mission here in Suva as well, starting in March 2020. Tony has also been a Deputy Chief of Mission in U.S. Embassy Suva in Samoa, Apia, beginning on August 2017. From 2015 to 2017, Tony was a Senior Pacific Island Desk Officer at Asia Pacific Bureau Office of Australia, New Zealand, and Pacific Island Affairs. He managed bilateral relationships with 5 Pacific Island countries, Fiji, Tonga, Kiribati, Nauru, and Tuvalu. From 2015 to 2015, and 2012 to 2015, Tony served as American Citizen Service Unit Chief at the United States Embassy in Beijing. In his capacity, Tony was also responsible for providing consular services to American citizens in North Korea, in coordination with Embassy of Sweden in Pyongyang. Earlier in his career, Tony served as a consular section chief in Indonesia and performed consular and diplomatic work in Ottawa, Canada, Pakistan. He also worked as a management analyst in the State Department's Bureau of Consular Affairs, and he received a bachelor's degree from the University of Southern Indiana, a master's degree as well from Indiana State University. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Tony Greubel. To get started, I'm just going to go ahead and ask you a couple of questions to get the conversation started. Is that okay with you, Tony?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Great. So please tell us what led you to seek a career in diplomacy.
Okay. So I've wanted to be a diplomat, foreign service officer since I was 16 years old. I've always been interested in international relations and people-to-people ties between countries, learning about other cultures. So I thought, when I was looking, how can I make a living with that? I talked to different people, and they told me you need to work at U.S. embassies overseas as a diplomat. And it just the more I read about it, it's like, yep, that's me. So that's what I did. I wasn't hired till I was 32, though. State Department, it's really selective getting hired as a foreign service officer. A lot of issues beyond your control as well regarding budget, hiring, etc. So, I worked in local government for almost 10 years after college until I actually joined the U.S. State Department.
Wow, that's amazing. You persevered.
I did.
So pre-COVID restrictions, just so that you can tell us a little bit of your life here in Fiji. What were some of your favorite things to do in Fiji? Any particular places that you went to or any things that you did?
I think one of my best memories, so I arrived in March of 2020. So right when COVID, impacted our lives, for March and April, we're kind of similar to what we're facing right now in Fiji in terms of restrictions, social
distancing.
Yeah, social distancing, etc. So, and then we were really busy with work. So probably my favorite time in Fiji was actually in February when I was able to go with the United Nations and different ministries and agencies of the Fiji government and other NGOs. We all did a trip out to the Lau Islands. And that was wonderful. I loved the people of Lau. I loved, having a time with getting to meet my colleagues who I was going on the trip with. I got to know so many people from the UN and from the Fiji wide range of Fiji ministries. And when you're stuck on a boat like that, we were gone for a week, and so, we really got to know each other. And I had a lot of fun getting to know the people on the islands that we visited. One of my favorite things to do actually was, I remember one day we had a bit of a break. We could kind of do what we wanted around the island, different programs. I'd already seen a lot of the programs because I had heard a lot of the speeches. So I just decided I was going to hang out with the village council guys and drink kava with them.
You drink kava?
Oh, yeah.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice. It's a really amazing bonding opportunity with people of Fiji. Kava is big here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned COVID restrictions and quarantine. Can you tell us, how do you keep calm during these COVID-19 restriction periods? What are some of the things that you do to feel, good mental health?
Look at it as an opportunity to catch up on some things that you normally don't have time to do or you're distracted from. So one thing that most Americans have watched over the last 10 years is the Game of Thrones television series. And I never watched it. So I just finished last Friday, actually.
You caught up with Game of Thrones?
Last Friday evening is when I watched the last episode. So I went through all 8 seasons ever since this started. Watch 2 or 3 hours a day, watch 2 or 3 episodes a day, once in a while skip it. But I understand why it was so popular. So, that's one thing that I did, honestly, to keep myself, not from being sad, bored, took advantage of that to do something I normally don't do, and probably watch some other television shows. I got behind on some of the Marvel Comics movies. That's probably going to be my next thing, is to catch up and watch all those.
You're a Marvel fan?
Oh, yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting. I know a lot of people that are, so this is good. Do you have a favorite superhero?
I think Thor.
Thor?
Yeah.
All right. That's great. I appreciate that. So you mentioned a little bit about catching up with pop culture in the United States, given the fact that you are constantly busy. You haven't had a chance to do that. Can you give us just an idea of what you do to celebrate 4th of July in the United States?
Oh, yeah. So this is when you're, I like living overseas is something I genuinely love. I do this all the time, do this as much as I can. But the 4th of July is when you really miss being in the U.S. So that's one of our, it's right in the U.S. summer. So it's a great day. It's always great to be outside, even if a bit hot. So usually you get together, most people get together with their family and friends during the day. Mm-hmm. And we have a cookout, barbecue. Usually we're grilling hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever else we can think of, eating all kinds of things like potato salad and salads and just whatever else you can think of on the side. So we eat all day, cooking out, and
until your belly hurts.
Until our belly hurts, absolutely. We also try and do something like if it's practical, we'll play some sports outside. Get a baseball game going, play some basketball, so the football. We do what we can on that, and then when it gets dark, either at your home or you go into downtown, we do fireworks. So it's always more fun to do the fireworks at your own house, but it's more dangerous too.
Yeah.
So most communities encourage people to, go to the community showing, and you get more professional fireworks show. But yeah, so watching the fireworks in the evening is what caps off our 4th of July day. And every American just loves it that day. I remember first time I ever went to New York City, I happened to be there for the 4th of July. So I got to watch fireworks on the Hudson River. And yeah, it was just so much fun seeing people, such a wide variety of people. A lot of them were tourists. even the tourists who weren't Americans were getting totally into it. You can't help it. You're paging, everyone's a pager out of America that day.
Absolutely. And it's not 4th of July without fireworks. It's great.
That's right.
So you mentioned a little bit about the history of 4th of July, not the history, but just what you do for 4th of July. Can you tell us just a little bit of your cultural background and your wife and kids and what you do?
Yeah. So, so for myself first, cultural background. So I grew up on a farm in the state of Indiana, U.S. state of Indiana. My father was he was a part-time farmer. He didn't do that for a living, but he had a small farm. And then he also worked at a brewery, so he was a factory worker at the brewery. And so, I grew up, working class, at that time. And also there for a while, lived with my mother, lived in Pittsburgh and West Virginia growing up. So I consider myself a Hoosier by birth. People from Indiana, we call ourselves Hoosiers.
Oh.
Don't really know what it meant. It means something like who's there. That somehow in the frontier days, when someone would knock on your cabin, people would say who's there, and then it just got turned into Hoosier.
Hoosier.
That's the theory, at least. So I consider myself a regular person from Indiana, and typical Midwest. That's why some people wonder, why in the world are we so interested in joining the Foreign Service? I can't really say why. This stuff just happens like this. We're all different. Had the opportunity, went for it. A lot of people thought I'd either be a farmer or something when I grew up, which I sometimes wish I was. I actually do love being on the farm life. I do miss that. And then I met my wife when I was in college. She's from Japan, and we've been married like over 25 years now. I think, we just hit our 26th wedding anniversary in May.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So was she an exchange student?
Not officially, sort of. So
Okay.
She was working on her master's degree at a university. She was teaching. She was getting free tuition and free living expenses in exchange for teaching Japanese courses. So she was always teaching a couple Japanese classes at the university. And in return for that, she finished her degree. She got a free degree out of it. So she majored she got a master's degree in secondary education. And I was a graduate student at the time working on my master's in political science. So, we got married right after we graduated. And, I've been to Japan with her a number of times, but we've had a fun time. She's really enjoyed the Foreign Service, at least as much as I have, living in different countries. And I kind of say she's been my secret weapon. She always makes sure that she did a great job raising our kids overseas, disrupting their lives every couple of years. We have 2 sons. And then she did a great job, making sure our home was ready, especially in Samoa. We were a great team. I was in Samoa before here. I was a DCM there. She got to know a lot of people getting out. But she's also found time to work on her own jobs as well. Like she's been, she's an author. She's written a couple books now. She also has taken up textiles, like making a wide variety of Pacific style art that she learned in Samoa, that she's continuing that here. And so, it's part-time work, but she really enjoys doing that. And so she's actually getting ready to do a show in Japan of some stuff that she's made to sell.
And for everybody that has met your wife, we adore her. She's charming and great conversationalist. So it's been really fun to get to know Isumi. So, well, here are some opening questions. I would like to open the floor to the public. If you have any particular questions you'd like to share with Tale, please go ahead and do so at PD Suva. Send your questions to the chat box and let us know if you want to discuss. So I'll go ahead and open up with just a quick question, a very broad question. Mr. Chargé, what does the U.S. government do here in Fiji? Can you give us a little bit of the work that's been done?
So our embassy here in Suva, if you've driven it, if you've driven past it, we're on Princess Road near Tamavua. It's a regional embassy. So we not only cover Fiji, we cover 4 other countries, Tonga, Kiribati, Nauru, and Tuvalu. And then we also have consular responsibility for the French territories in the Pacific. And we even have a regional environmental officer who covers even more of the Pacific, et cetera. We also have USAID office here. So we're a full service embassy. We have about a wide range of staff. We do a wide range of work. So what we're doing is we're focusing on helping with climate change issues. USAID historically has done a lot. The primary focus of their work in the Pacific has actually been focused on climate change issues. So we've always had a lot of programs on mitigation, preparing for it, building capacity building in that area. And USAID's getting ready to expand under the Pacific Pledge. They are expanding. We're already doing more programs. And of course, they're always here for humanitarian assistance, disaster response. So when there's a cyclone damages one of the countries that we cover, USAID is in close coordination with the local officials. So are we. And we often work with implementing partners like the International Red Cross to help fund the response efforts. We also provide consular services for people in our consular district, a whole lot. So when a Fijian needs to go to the United States, they have to have a valid visa. And so if you don't have a visa already, then you make an appointment, you come in, and then we'll do the visa interview. That hasn't been so busy over the last year because of COVID. International travel's gone down, but we are prepared when things get back to normal. We're looking forward to having our visa applicants back. Also, when American citizens, when they need anything, when they need consular support, they also come here to get, for example, a new passport or register their children as U.S. citizens. And then we have a public diplomacy program that works on information programs like the press people, and then that we also have doing educational and cultural affairs, kind of programs similar to this that you're helping with. And so we do things like in normal times before COVID, we would often have American athletes coming over here helping with sports diplomacy programs, doing programs. We have artists coming over, jazz bands. We're doing everything that we can to promote people-to-people tie, including formal exchange programs like the Fulbright program. And for government-to-government work, we have political and econ sections we're delivering what's called demarches. We're asking, like, say, Fiji, Tonga example, to vote certain ways in the UN or support a candidate for this. And then they do the same thing for us, working on issues of the bilateral relationship. So it's a lot of interesting work. You name it, we're probably covering on it. We're promoting trade. We're trying to expand trade between Fiji and the US, et cetera. Mm-hmm.
So this is amazing work. Can you tell us some of the most recent work that has been happening for the last couple of months when it comes to COVID and other initiatives that we have going for U.S. government?
Yeah. So with the COVID response, the USAID since last year has spent $35 million US dollars, about 70 Fiji. That's about 70 million Fiji dollars for COVID response. So we've used that to help buy supplies, buy PPE, medical equipment, It's also been used for education programs, capacity building in this time, relaying information. The U.S. Department of Defense, they also have some humanitarian programs, and they've spent in the Pacific hundreds of thousands of U.S. dollars to also buy PPE and other programs, and PPE and medical equipment to help respond for the people of Fiji. And then for vaccines, the United States is the single largest contributor to the COVAX facility. We've already provided $2 billion US, and we pledged $2 billion more dollars over the next 2 years. And so the COVAX facility has delivered about 120,000 vaccines to Fiji. And, so the US, along with a lot of countries are members of it. It's a good team, multilateral effort to make sure that vaccines are delivered around the world in a timely, safe, efficient manner, equitable. So, besides Fiji, all the other countries in the Pacific have also received COVAX shipments. And then the United States is also buying a lot more. We're also done vaccinating. The U.S. vaccination effort is largely wrapped up now. We're still vaccinating, but we're also at the point where we can donate more vaccines. So President Biden's announced that we're contributing like 25 million doses to the COVAX facility, around the world. Some of them we expect to reach the Pacific Islands, including Fiji. We're still waiting on exact dates when they might arrive, but they would probably be delivered via the COVAX facility.
So this has been quite an amazing assistance that we've collaborated with the Fiji government. Can you tell us a little bit more about maybe some of the work that you have done and most rewarding work that you have done here in Fiji and some of the experiences that you've had working with people?
Yeah, rewarding. Oh gosh.
I know it's difficult to just quantify just one specific, but if you can just give us some of the work that you've done, that seems, because public diplomacy it's rewarding in itself. It's really important to connect to people. So can you give us just an example of some of the most rewarding things that have happened to you?
Oh gosh. No, I mean, there really is a lot. Everything from donating blood. I have a more rare. This sounds small, but it's not only in Fiji. There's been a couple times now. So I have A negative blood, and that's rare. Even in the United States, that's rare. And when you're talking in many countries, it's almost unheard of. But there was one time in Indonesia when I was assigned there, the Red Cross called the consulate asking if we knew of any Americans who had A negative blood. They needed someone who was having surgery. They couldn't find any. And when my staff said something, I said, I'll go. I'm A negative. So I just went over. I even met the guy. It was really fun. That was a heartwarming experience, donating blood for him. And then, very well might have saved his life, because A negative among Asians is he was Asian and he had A negative blood, and that's almost unheard of. So I was lucky I was there for it. And then a year ago, we had the Red Cross come here, and I donated a pint of blood, and they asked if they could contact me if they ever needed someone in a critical case. I said, of course. And then sure enough, in May, they called me up and said, we need more blood. We need A negative blood. So I went over to the Colonial War Memorial and donated. It's stuff like that, I think, is where you kind of really feel like that's very personal in nature, but more of an ask. But doing something like that, as simple as donating blood. There's been a lot of concert cases in my career where I've helped, help people who were kidnapped, get back to U.S., help. Yeah, there was a case in one country where a person's daughters were kidnapped for ransom by a gang, and we worked with local authorities to crack the case, and I was there when the father was reunited with his two daughters. That was, very heartwarming. So yeah, there's been, just all kinds of work like that. Handing over, when you're there with the Minister of Health, handing over really critically needed PPE and other things to respond to this effort. It makes you really proud that you're able to do something to contribute at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Greubel, very much for your time. Any last minute imparting words? I've asked you all the questions that the public wanted to ask. So at this point, if anybody else has any particular questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Otherwise, I would like to wrap it up with just a big thank you to you for Talanoa, having Ms. Talanoa with us. I know that is the work that the U.S. government does in Fiji and all of our accredited countries is important, very important, and it's also rewarding. As a person who works for the U.S. Embassy, it has been a great experience to be able to do the people-to-people diplomacy. And so we are unable to do the people-to-people diplomacy just yet, with the COVID-19 restrictions, but we get to do it virtually. So this is exciting. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It has been truly a treat.
Well, thank you. Mm-hmm. Great.
Well, without further ado, thank you very much. This ends our first of 5 conversations with different populations in our 5 accredited countries. Join us tomorrow for a conversation with Tuba. Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.